Catfishing 101. This video is for beginners looking to get into catfishing. So I'll be going over the rods, the reels, the lines, the leaders, the hooks, the setups, the weather, the where to fish, all the absolute basics to get you started. If you're already an expert at catching catfish, go ahead and leave some comments down below. Leave any tips, like any of these beginners to know, anything that helped you out when you first started catfishing. I'm sure they'll greatly appreciate it, as would we all. But this video is going to go over the absolute basics to get anybody started on catfishing for those who are just getting into it. First thing I'm going to say, which is going to be against a whole lot of people's opinion, is if you are just getting into catfishing and you are looking into catching the 10-pound or smaller fish, 10-pound or smaller fish, and the 10-pound range is probably right around where you want to start eating fish. So that being said, if you are targeting smaller 10-pound or less fish, the cheap catfish combos that you buy at the sporting goods stores, they are absolutely sufficient. Cheapy combos that range between 40 and 60, they work. They absolutely work for small 10-pound fish or less. If you're going after trophy fish, you are going to want to upgrade your gear, but for the smaller catfish, these work just fine. Also, if you have the money to upgrade, then it will make the experience more enjoyable. The more expensive gear does have advanced features that does just enhance the whole pleasure of catching catfish. Okay, but if you do have the money and you do want to get into catfishing to go after trophy catfish, then let's go into what you're going to need. First piece of equipment you're going to want is to get a catfish rod. So on a catfish rod, what you're really looking for is something that says, let me zoom in here, medium to medium heavy. Those are more stout rods. They can handle much bigger fish. This one specifically has a 12 to 30 pound fishing line rating. It can handle up to 4 ounces of weights. It is a medium heavy rod. So this is what you are looking for, a medium heavy rod. It is stout. Now, I will say this, and it goes against popular opinion. Fishing rods do not make as much of a difference in catfishing than the reels do. This is a $39 Bass Pro Shop offshore angler rod. I have pulled in 70+ pound fish with this rod. It held up like a trooper. Now, if you are going to upgrade rods, you will see that upgraded rods do have, like solid steel guides on them, may have glow in the dark tips. The reel seats right here will be made out of metal, not plastic. They may have longer handles. They may be made out of graphite instead of fiberglass. All these advanced features, you do get that with the upgraded price. But in all honesty, if you're just starting out, a cheap, medium, heavy rod, it'll get the job done. Absolutely 100%. Okay, so then let's talk about reels. Again, the cheapy reels that you get on the catfish combos at the sporting goods stores, they work. They absolutely work. One thing you're going to notice with catfish reels is compared to a bass reel, they are bigger, right? Because you need to be able to hold thicker line and more of it than you would on a bass reel. Bass reels are not made for long distance casting. Catfish, you are going to have to long distance cast. You are going to want heavier line, and the bass reels just aren't going to really cut it in most situations. Now, the cheap reels will get the job done, but if you do have the money and you do want to upgrade something, I would recommend upgrading your reel. It's going to make the experience more enjoyable. It just has more advantages. A rod's going to hold up until it doesn't. Every rod will break eventually. A cheap rod's going to hold up longer than a cheap reel will. I can tell you that from personal experience. So if you are going to upgrade your reel, I suggest you pick a name brand, something like Penn, Daiwa, Shimano, something that's a well-known brand. And if you are upgrading your brand, you're going to want to look for certain features like sizing. Most name brand reels size their reels by 1,000 range tier, right? So a bass reel be about 1,000. This is a 4,000 size. This is probably a 3,000 size. They do go all the way up until the big boys, up into the 10,000 range, which you do not need. That is more of a saltwater reel. So I would recommend looking for something that's around the 3,000 or 4,000 size range. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you more line on the reel. Also, when you upgrade your reels, you are going to get more advanced features like more ball bearings. It's going to make reeling and retrieving the line smoother. It's going to make fighting the fish better. It's going to have a higher drag resistance, meaning the fish is going to have to put more force on the line to pull the line out. It'll have stronger bails. The way they make them up here at the top of the spool when the line comes out, it's going to be able to cast further easier. So you do get those advanced features over one of the cheapy reels, and I would recommend upgrading your reel if you're going to upgrade anything. This one actually has a live liner feature on it, so it's got a second drag system. Absolutely love it. These are perfect for catfishing. Okay, for a line, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to suggest you get something that's around the 20 to 30 pound test rating. You are going to want something heavy duty. You are not going to want to get a trophy size fish and you have your line break because you cheaped out about 10 pound line. Do get 20 to 30 pound line, even if you're chasing the small cats. It will also offer abrasion resistance should you run it into some rocks. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to go ahead and lump everything that is not braid into the monofilament category. So monofilament, hybrids, fluorocarbons, all that. Purpose of this video, it's all just monofilament, right? So you have two choices when it comes to line. You got monofilament and you have braid. Braid is basically like string. So the advantage of monofilament is, one, it has higher abrasion resistance against concrete and debris and trees. It also has a little bit of a stretch to it. Braid, on the other hand, is more like string. It does not have any stretch to it, but it is a thinner diameter than the mono, so by half. So if your reel can hold 200 yards of 20 pound mono, it can hold 400 yards of 20 pound braid. I mean, that's not an exact number, but that is roughly how it goes. You can get more braid on a line than you can with mono. I personally prefer the braid because you don't have that stretch in it, so I get a better hook set. You feel more tension on the line when you're fighting the fish. I just think personally it's more fun to fight with braid. You also get more line on a reel, which I absolutely love, so I don't have to replace it as often. But if you fish in an area that's full of rocks, debris, trees, and all that, you probably want to go with mono. But both will absolutely work fine. It's really going to come down to your personal preference. Choose the one that works for you. And again, I would also suggest a name brand on the line. Do not really recommend you cheap out and buy no-name brands. It does make a difference in line. 100% agree on that. Look for name brands. I don't even recommend this one. Spiderwire is normally good. Berkeley is pretty good. Trilene is pretty good. Suffix. But yeah, just definitely look for a name brand. Okay, so let us talk about hooks. So we pretty much got three choices here. When it comes to hooks, you have J hooks. Traditional J hook, been using them for decades. Newer to the lineup is circle hooks. It's like a J hook, but the tip curls in, and you got your old school treble hooks. So J hook's the thing everyone's been using forever. Put your bait on there, fish takes off, yank back on the rod, set the hook, right? Circle hook's a little bit newer into the game. Basically, the way a circle hook works, it's the same as a J hook, but you actually do not set the hook. When the fish takes this hook into its mouth, the corner of this, when he pulls away, is going to hook right into the lip of that fish. It's going to set its own hook, basically. Also, advantage of a circle hook is you can fish this two ways. One, you can keep the drag loose, and when the fish takes off, you can just reel down on your reel, and it's going to set the hook that way. Or you can leave your drag tight in a rod holder, and when the fish pulls against this with the resistance of the rod and the rod holder, it'll set the hook itself. So there are some definite advantages to these. I think they've absolutely exploded in popularity, and I see a lot more people using circle hooks. The third option is the treble hook. The only time I really see people use these for catfishing is when they're using some sort of a doughy, gooey, mushy bait. These basically help keep that bait on the hook, and then generally they don't use them this big. The one thing I will say about using treble hooks is if you are going to use it, be prepared to take that fish home to eat it. I would not use these for sport. If that fish swallows these, it's probably going to die. You're probably not going to get that out of the fish. Okay, so those are your three basic hook options there. J hook, circle hook, treble hook. So let's talk about leaders, how you get each one of these hooks onto your line. Okay, so leaders, let me tell you about a couple of the very, very basic leaders. They're tried and true. These will not fail you. They worked for decades. The number one probably leader setup you have here is, let me get this untangled, is you have your hook to a heavy piece of mono. I typically use something between 50 and 80 pound mono. You do want your leader line to be stronger than your main line. It's going to offer you more abrasion resistance. It's going to offer you greater impact resistance when the fish takes off with it. And also, fish have teeth, so catfish will actually fray that line over time. Every catfish rig has like 900 different names for it. This one, I think most people call either a slip rig or a Carolina rig. It is basically your hook tied to your leader, tied to a swivel, tied to your main line. And on your main line, you have a weight. Now, what kind of weight does not matter. You can use an egg weight. You can use a river weight. You can use a bank sinker with a clip on it. It doesn't matter. But this is one of the main #1 leader lines out there. Slip rig, Carolina rig. One of the other super popular rigs is taking that Carolina rig and attaching a float to it. I believe this is called a Santee rig, and basically what that does, when your weight is held to the bottom, your float holds your bait up, suspended above any weeds or debris that's down there. Very popular, absolutely works. People love doing that. Another extremely popular leader setup is called a 3-way rig. The weight is below the hook. The hook sits above, somewhere between 6 and 18 inches. You can actually do these called over-under rigs or high-low rigs where there's actually 2 sets of hooks, one here and another one here. And this attaches to your main line. Now you can learn to tie these if you want, but I'm going to openly suggest if you're just getting into catfishing, you can buy these at any sporting goods store. They are about $1. Buy 10 of them. Knock yourself out. Don't even worry about tying all that stuff up. This will absolutely catch you fish. This will absolutely catch you trophy fish. This will absolutely catch you dinner. So those are the most common catfish rigs, leader setups out there. How do you tie the hook to the leader? I'm going to show you right here. Some of the most simplest knots is snelling the knot. That's what it's called, a snell knot. So I'm using a piece of string and a big hook just for demonstration purposes. But you take your line and you go through the front, around the back of the hook, like so. You make a little loop down here, right here. So you have a loop. You cross over the shank. So now you have your string hanging out. You go through the loop and around the shank. And that's going to make a coil, right? And you want to do 6 to 8 coils around the shank like that. Anything over 8 is really kind of overkill. Just keep going over and through and over and through. Takes a little practice. It's actually a little easier with fishing line because it's got stiffness to it. The string is actually pretty flimsy. Okay, so you have your coils. You pull your main line down, and what that's going to do is it's going to cinch the bottom loop down. There you go, guys. That is a snow hook. That's called a snow hook using the uni method. So here's going to be another way to do it, which is kind of like a knotless knot. So you take your line, you go through the front, out the back. So you come to the bottom, you make a loop, and then you take your main line, you go over the top here. So you're just like this, and then you just start coiling around. You just start wrapping it and wrapping it and wrapping it. Again, 6 to 8 times. And when you get done, you have your loop down here, you take your tag end. You take your tag end, you go through the loop. Then you pull your main line. That cinches that loop down. Make it all snug. And there you go. That is a snell knot. And it will not fail. This is the knot that I use most of the time. It's never failed me. If you want to use it with the uni method, where you're going over your own line, a little extra security, feel free. Personal experience, this knot's never failed me. I want to tie a snell knot because it seems way too complicated. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to tie a polymer knot, which is a very strong knot. You take your string, your line, you make a loop. You go through the eye of the hook, like so. You take your loop and you make an overhand knot over your main line. And you don't cinch down all the way. And you take your loop end and you go over your hook or your swivel, and then you pull your two main lines together. You should moisten this knot up. You cinch down, and there you go, guys. It gives you double the strength with the two lines going through the hook. This is an extremely strong knot. It's used for many different applications in fishing. Super strong knot. This should be one of the top 3 knots in your toolbox, the polymer knot. Those are the 3 knots you really need to know. Any of those 3 knots are going to work for catfishing. Learn one of them, master it, get it down, you'll be good to go. Okay, catfish bait. So the debate over the best catfish bait is going to rage on until the end of time. Absolutely, people are always going to come up with something new. I have every concoction that you can ever think of. Kool-Aid soaked spam, ivory bath soap. There's also store-bought bait, dip bait, and stink bait, which of course stinks. I'm not opening this package. You can buy these stuff at any sporting goods store that sells fishing gear. Does it all work? Yes, to an extent, for sure. Different kinds of these baits work better in different areas. Personal experience, they will catch you the smaller fish, not the larger fish. But the long-standing tradition is basically that the stinkier and bloodier the bait is, the better it is for catfish. Now, if that's true or not, I don't know. But what I do know is catfish are predators. So they will go after other fish. They will go after meat. They are also scavengers. So they will go after an easy meal. You can catch them on bread, on corn, on hot dogs, on stink bait. I guess ivory soap would work. They basically, anything they can eat, they'll eat. So yes, they're predators, but they're also scavengers. With that being said, I will go over the 3 top baits that I personally use. Night crawlers, absolutely probably number 3 on my list. Night crawlers are a natural bait for catfish. They're found in every water source basically that has a earth bank or trees overhanging it. So it's a natural source. The catfish will go after it. You generally don't catch the monster catfish on night crawlers, but you generally catch catfish on night crawlers. So my number 2 favorite bait is chicken breast or chicken tenderloin that you buy at the grocery store. I've heard all sorts of concoctions of mixing it with Kool-Aid and garlic powder and garlic and whatever. I've tried a few of those recipes myself. I haven't noticed any difference between just using plain chicken. And catfish absolutely love plain chicken. They love meat. They will hit it. So yeah, in a pinch, go get you some chicken. My number 1 catfish bait is going to be fresh bait, fresh fish, fresh caught, either cut or live. So if you can find mullet, bluegills, tilapias, shad, gizzard shad, skipjacks, any of those smaller, stinkier, oilier bait fish work absolutely wonderful for catfish. It's my number 1 bait. Also use carp down here in Texas. Carp is a great catfish bait. Cut it all up. So you're gonna have to either A, live close to a bait shop where you can buy that stuff, or B, learn to throw a cast net. I know a lot of people don't want to invest in cast nets. They get torn up. They're expensive, but yeah, that's gonna make a game changer. The cut bait or the live bait, that's where you're gonna catch your big fish. Personal opinion, personal experience. So those are my top 3 baits: night crawlers, chicken, fresh bait. Okay, so where and when to fish. So basically, any body of water in the United States is most likely going to have some species of catfish in it. They're in every lake, every river, every pond, every creek, every bayou you can find. There's going to be some species of catfish in there. If you find a body of water and it can sustain life, probably a blue catfish or a channel catfish lingering in there somewhere. So pretty much anywhere you can fish for them. Best time to go fishing for them in the morning and evening have been my two go-tos, right around sunrise, right around sunset. There's also a lot of people that go fishing for catfish overnight, and basically the theory of that is when the bait fish are less active because it's nighttime, the predators come out for easier meals. There is truth behind that. I don't personally do a whole lot of nighttime catfishing, but it absolutely does work. So you can fish overnight, fish in the evening, fish in the morning. Those are the best times. Now, in my personal experience down here in Texas, the catfish will bite all day long. So you can definitely go out in the middle of summer, in the middle of the heat, and catch a catfish. It's not as likely. It's fewer bites. It's far and few in between, but they are still active. But your best times are in the morning, the evening, and overnights. Now, catfish spawn during the late spring, early summertime. So that's when they're going to be least active because they're protecting their nests. Now, once that spawn period is over, they come out like crazy and they're going to be super active and super hungry. That is an awesome time to get out there in the early summer to midsummer. Then if you live somewhere where it doesn't get super cold like Texas, we don't get ice storms down here very often, we can fish for catfish year round. I don't know if that's possible up north where you ice over. I don't know. If you fish for catfish, ice fish for catfish, let me know. I'd love to hear about that. Leave a comment down below. But generally down here in the warmer climates, we can fish for catfish year round. And it's pretty awesome. In the colder months, I do happen to see an increase in the bigger catfish coming out. There's obviously less bites because it's colder and the fish are more dormant. But I do see the bigger catfish, the trophy-sized catfish, come out in the winter times down here. Okay, so quick recap. 1. The cheap combo reels that you can get at the sporting goods stores will absolutely work for 10-pound or less smaller catfish. Rods, if you're going to upgrade them, get something that's a medium heavy and can hold a good sized lure weight. Reels, if you are going to upgrade, go with a name brand. Go somewhere around the 3,000 size range. Try to find something that's 15 pound drag resistance or better. Hooks, circle hooks are probably going to be your most foolproof. Otherwise, go with the J hooks. The snell knot. Learn it, master it. It is your friend. It will change your life. Bait. I love fresh bait. You can buy the store bait. You can buy the grocery store bait. You don't need expensive gear. The rigs can be pretty simple. It's a lot of patience. It's a lot of get out there and wait. But I'll tell you what, guys, the memories are unforgettable. When you pull in that one monster or you're feeding your family on something you caught, it's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, y'all, if you liked anything you saw, if I gave you any information you didn't know before, go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't done so, hit subscribe. I appreciate all of your support. If you have any tips or tricks you'd like to add to the conversation, leave them below in the comments. And I'll see you on the water, guys.